Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now today I want to talk about just kind of the overall state of the market, because we've seen obviously a ton of crazy things happening over the past several days, weeks, even close to a month at this point. So I want to talk about kind of where we're at, what we're seeing. Should we be concerned with what we're seeing? Should we be encouraged with what we're seeing? All that type of stuff. So anyway, let's go ahead, dive right in. We're going to start with crypto bubbles, because as we can see, another really strong day in the market. I mean, core is up 53%. We've got 35% up over here on virtual, 30% on theta, 25 on world, 22 on Tezos. Like, so many things up really massively over the past day. But even if we look at the week here, almost no red in sight. We can see, surprisingly, Solana actually one of the only like red coins here. We've got, Floki as well, Crypto.com's token, Bonk, so some of these, the Solana ecosystem has been struggling a little bit kind of compared to everything else. However, I don't think that this is too big of a deal or too concerning of information, just because we've seen Solana do so well, over the past year, really. And so the fact that we're starting to see some of these ETH-based projects catch up, I think, frankly, is probably a little bit overdue. And so, not much of a concern here. But overall, the market's looking really strong. So that's what we want to talk about today, because what we can see here is looking at Bitcoin specifically. We'll talk about this for the overall market here in a second, but Bitcoin specifically, we've kind of leveled off at about 62 billion of open interest. We can see even just just over a month ago, we can see almost half that. So open interest just absolutely exploding. The RSI heat map is something I do want to look at here, because this is starting to look, at least in my opinion, more and more concerning by the day, because what we can see is, other than the exception of kind of a handful of things down here, and again, most of these being either stable coins or Solana-based coins, almost everything is getting into the strong or overbought territory. We can see the market average is sitting at 67.42. The kind of threshold for hitting into overbought is 70. So, we are getting definitely very close into overbought. So it's something that we should definitely be looking at. I know we've seen massive moves up kind of market wide, and this is exactly what we're seeing. On the 24-hour, everything looking really strong, creeping into overbought. And so keep an eye out on that, because the overall market it's moved up a lot, and we should realistically, in a healthy market, be seeing a little bit of some some pullbacks and some recoveries, not necessarily entering like a downtrend or anything, just pulling back a little bit and letting the market recover. We saw that momentarily for a couple of days, but it didn't really seem long enough to really kind of release any sort of the exuberance or euphoria, anything like that. We can see here still sitting in extreme greed. We did drop down into greed for a little bit over the past couple of days, but it's pretty strongly been in extreme greed kind of the whole time. You see liquidation maps sitting at about balanced right now. If we look on the 7-day, getting even closer to balance. I know over the last little bit, these have kind of been flipping around, but overall the market I think is kind of in a point of no one really knows where it's going to go. It's just we're $20,000 Bitcoin higher than where we were seeing this last time. There's a lot of leverage sitting on both sides. There's a lot of volume going on. We can see that the 24-hour liquidation's at 200 million. This is I would say small for what we've seen recently, which is funny, because even just a month ago, this would have been a very large day in terms of liquidation. So still a ton of things going on here. If we go and move on to open interest, this is what I want to take kind of a little bit closer look at. We can see that Bitcoin open interest looking very similar to what we've seen previously. But if we look at the overall market, we can see something very similar. Not only has volume spiked massively, but we can see if we go back to this level, we're sitting about 70 billion-ish of open interest, and now we're looking at most recently at 123 billion of open interest. So again, open interest in the market almost doubling in less than a month, which is just crazy stuff. So obviously there's been a ton of interest, there's been a ton of volume. I think a lot of this probably can be somewhat equated to there's almost been an artificial kind of suppressing of the crypto industry, particularly in the US over the past several years. And so the fact that investors and crypto fans and all these types of people are they're seeing an end to this coming, and we've already seen news kind of coming out in terms of Gary Gensler's essentially said he's going to resign. Obviously, we know the incoming administration is far more pro-crypto than the prior one. So I think we're going to get a lot more of this stuff where, people basically admitted to the Operation Choke Point type stuff. There's a lot of these things where they were intentionally trying to suppress the crypto industry, and now that's coming to an end. And so there is definitely like a lot of exuberance and a lot of bullishness that is coming out of this. And I mean, it's very easy to see in open interest. It's very easy to see in the RSI heat map. It's very interesting to see in, like, the volume and the liquidation amounts. It's very easy to see in the fear and greed index. If we look at historical trends, even if we look at stablecoin market cap, we can see even over the past like less than a month, we went from 160 billion in total stablecoins up to like 180 billion. So, again, $20 billion entering the crypto ecosystem in 1 month. I mean, that, again, massive growth. I mean, that's over 10% in less than a month. That's crazy. And so a lot of really strong things happening. The only thing we have to be careful of is when things, again, going back to the RSI, when things get, a little too over bullish, this is usually when we see a little bit of a pullback. And again, I think we would continue to see a move to the upside, but you just got to be careful when things start to look a little bit like this. And so if we look at the cycle repeat, this is essentially a chart that will essentially map the movements of last cycle onto this cycle in the same timing as well as magnitude. And so as you can see, we were a little late. This only takes like actuals essentially, and it maps the rest of the cycle based on the actuals we've seen so far. So you can see we have seen a strong move to the upside. If we were to mimic last cycle, we continue to move up and see something around maybe $170,000 Bitcoin by about the middle of September, and then we'd see a little bit of a pullback back down to like, I don't know, 130-ish maybe. And then we continue on to reaching a top of about 265,000-ish. And then we see a pullback, a pretty decent pullback of about 50%, close to. And then we reached, kind of our ultimate high for the cycle, I guess, prior to the halving, because we did see highs hit before the halving. We hit our high of about 280,000, and then we kind of moved back down into the bear market, where we could see prices returning below 70,000. So, obviously after hitting prices at, 270,000, 280,000, seeing prices come back down to 60, 70,000 would be fantastic. So, we'll see if that happens, but this is kind of overall what the map would look like if we followed last cycle. And then again, we'd see that run back up prior to the halving, just like we did on the previous cycle. So this was kind of an aberration, at least from what we've seen in historical cycles. So I'm not sure if we would see something similar. Maybe we would. It's really hard to say in terms of what that would look like exactly. But overall, things moving fairly, in line. And if we look at the stock to flow, we can see something very similar. The only thing that I would say is maybe somewhat different from previous cycles is we haven't seen as aggressive of a run up yet. I mean, we're starting to see that kind of come up, but as we can see, the current stock to flow model puts Bitcoin, puts this line at about 300,000, and in 463 days from now at about 1.3 million. Now we can see in every previous cycle we've either been at or above the line. Even right here when we were a little bit below, we ran up, topped out over the line, and then came back down sitting under it. The thing we haven't seen right now is we have not seen that level of move to the upside yet. I mean, we need about a 3x from here to even get up to the line. And so, I don't know, this is the point at which maybe the stock to flow maybe starts to break, potentially, because I don't know, I think seeing a $303,000 Bitcoin in 10 days from now, that seems a little bit egregious, potentially. And so, I'm not saying it can't happen, I'm not saying it won't happen, but that's a really high price for Bitcoin, particularly with what we've seen kind of develop within the market so far. I mean, obviously the market sentiment has been great. It's done really well, but I mean, we just haven't seen Bitcoin move that explosively at any point in this cycle yet. I mean, obviously it's done really well, but I think we need to see a little bit more insanity, but before we saw something like that. So anyway, that's kind of what we're looking at here on the stock to flow. But overall, I mean, things looking really good. We're looking at kind of some historical patterns holding. We're looking at potentially some historical patterns breaking. As we could see on the stock to flow, we are kind of entering that orange zone, and the orange zone and yellow zone is usually when we see most of the upside insanity. So, we'll continue to see if that holds. So far, it has been holding because we've started to move up, and that's been in the orange zone. So, things looking good overall. I think the market's in a pretty decent place. It really just depends on kind of how long the market kind of continues without seeing any sort of pullback, because we have seen obviously some mega moves up, but the market is overall looking pretty overextended. It could continue on though. We have had multiple years of kind of artificial suppression of the crypto industry, and so maybe that allows things to run longer and kind of stay overextended more than they would be otherwise. And so, lots going on here. Definitely, hard to say for certain what's going to happen over the next weeks, months, days, years, whatever. But overall, I think I'm at least fairly comfortable to say that I do think we're going to see crypto going up fairly consistently. It's a very, very strong industry. It's very, very quickly growing, especially with some of these regulatory implementations that I'm expecting we should see over the next couple of years. I think it's only going to go up. So even right now, even if things are overextended, I think long term we're still kind of up and to the right from here. So again, that's just my opinion, not financial advice. But if you did find the information in this video useful, please do give me a like and subscribe, because it really does help me out, particularly within getting pushed to more people and all that type of stuff. But also, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything like that, please feel free to just drop them in the comment section below. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.